How's it going? Thought I'd do up a bit of a clip on how we feed the worms now. We've done clips in the past showing you how we feed them, but yeah, we've changed things as we've learned more, so I thought I'd just give you a bit of a look at how it's done now. To begin with, we pretty much will feed them basically on the manure bedding they're living in. We fill up the worm farms with horse manure after it's been aged a little bit, and yeah, there's loads of bacteria in there, and the worms pretty much all love it. We're going to do a few experiments with mushroom compost soon, seeing if that makes a suitable bedding for them, but yeah, haven't gone around to that yet. And when it comes to feeding them other organic matter like veggie scraps, we pretty much will make up what we call worm smoothie or slushy. No worms are in it, it's pretty much all just organic matter, veggie scraps, fruit scraps from the kitchen, and also other bits and pieces from the garden that we mix up or smash up in the food processor. So that's pretty much all added to the top few layers of the worm beds, which you'll see towards the end of the clip. The reason we like to break up the organic matter is because it provides more surface area for microbes to start to feast on the veggie scraps. The more microbes are, the faster the worms are going to consume the lot. Worms will eat organic matter, but they love eating microbes, bacteria and the like. So the more surface area you have, the more of those little critters, the faster the worms are going to smash into it and just devour it. So I suppose we'll get to it, and I'll give you a bit of a look at how we make it all up. So making up the worm slushies really hasn't changed a lot for us. It's still veggie scraps that go in. We do have a couple of additives we do like to put through. Normally I'd put through eggshell, and that just provides a bit of grit. Worms don't have a digestive tract like we do. They have gizzards, and in those gizzards they need hard particles to grind down the food, the bacteria and organic matter that they eat, and it just helps break it down within their gizzard before they can pass it through the rest of the digestive tract. Normally I'd add in eggshells, but on the days we haven't got any eggshells, I pinch some of the shell grit we've got that has been in the aquaponics system. This is a large grain shell grit, so it's not really suitable for the chickens. They don't really hook into it this much. We've got a finer grain that we use for the chickens. So what I do is just wrap it in my little blender here and blitz it down to a nice powder. Once that's done, what you're left with is a nice fine powder that the worms can use to help break down the organic matter and bacteria in their gizzard. I needed to buy some more seaweed fertilizer the other day, so I thought I'd try a new product. Well, it's new for me. It's just a powdered seaweed fertilizer. This here just dissolves in water totally, and you just apply it to your gardens. It's not something a lot of people add to their worm farms. I'm just going to have a crack at it and see how I go. It's just something that's hopefully going to improve the end product. Definitely not something that everyone needs to add to their worm farms, I don't think. So there you go, thought I'd give you a bit of a look at that. The other thing we like to add in is spent coffee grounds. These guys here have come from our espresso machine, so I like to throw that in as well. It goes into the compost too. This stuff here isn't acidic. A lot of people say that coffee grounds are acidic. If it was fresh coffee that hadn't been brewed, yeah, definitely would have a lower pH. But this stuff here, all the acid has been taken out in the cup of coffee that you've drunk, so it's pretty negligible the amount of acid that's left in this stuff. So I wouldn't be too worried about putting this in your worm farm. And as for putting it around plants to make them the ground more acidic, I don't think it really does a fantastic job. You're pretty much all better off using some sort of flowers of sulphur or something like that, I think. Just to begin with, a couple of things we don't add into the worm slushies. A lot of citrus or onion peelings. A little bit here and there makes it into the large feeds when we make them up, the large batches, but definitely not something to add in bulk. The other thing to avoid is meat and dairy scraps. They're only going to attract rodents, flies, blowflies and that sort of thing. If you're lucky enough to have black soldier flies in your area, you're probably better off making up a black soldier fly farm, and that way you can get rid of your meat and your dairy scraps and keep the nutrients within your own garden. So with the worm slushies, pretty much all anything organic goes in. I'm just popping in today some rather rubbery apples, half a black Russian tomato that's gone a little bit manky. We got some celery stalks from a salad the other day, pop them in there as well, a bit of a wongbok leaf. So that mix is then just run through the food processor. So just to give you a little bit of a look at the consistency, That's pretty much all it there. Some people add water into theirs. I don't pretty much will add water into it because I find that it just makes the whole castings in the worm farm a little bit too damp. So I just pretty much will leave it at that consistency. When scraps are running a bit low, another thing I like to do is just add some of these manky kangkong leaves. We have these out in the garden. It's just a water plant that grows very well in our aquaponics system and also in a water chestnut bath we have on the go. Pop the last leaves in, lock the lid in place, away we go, whack around to 10. There we go, that's pretty much all it. So there we go, a super green worm slushy, supercharged with some kelp. So we'll pop on down to the bathtub and I'll show you how we spread it around the worm farm. So this is the bathtub we're going to be feeding. This is the original one. Down here is the feeding end, and this end here is the end that we've been harvesting the castings from, just to put out on the garden. I grab the worms and the eggs and everything, and they all just go out onto the garden. Just rake some of this aside, sorry worms. Just make a little bit of a hole here. Would you like to hold the camera, Koo? People have complained that I don't use gloves, but sorry, I'm going to use my hands anyway. As you can see, there's loads of worms down in here. This castings is a little bit wet. We had a fairly heavy rainfall the other day and it came through the side slats there. Loads of worms there though. Yeah, so all I'm going to do is put this gloop all in here. And I'll use the spatula. Don't tell Bianca, I will wash it before we put it back in the house.
Looks a bit like guacamole.
Looks like guacamole. There you go, it's as easy as that. And then popping the castings back over the top. I was just adding it onto the top for a long time, but I found the worms just go through it a little bit better if you just put it a couple of centimetres below the top. They tend to hoe through it a lot faster. Actually there's no worms on there. When I add newspaper and things like that, cardboard, shredded cardboard, as you can see there's still some bills here. Sorry, Optus and Energix. When I add the shredded paper, it just goes on top and the worms come up and feed on that. They love the stuff, it's like candy to them. So there you go, that's pretty much all it, I suppose. Not a lot else to say. Just thought I'd give you a quick look at how we do it with the worm slushy. It's changed slightly since that original clip I mentioned before. But yeah, the worms seem to be hoeing through this fine. You don't have to add the calcium, the eggshells or the shell grit if you don't have it on hand. You also don't have to add the kelp. They're just some little additives we do. It's as long as the food you're giving the worms is diverse, like you've got different veggies going in there, different bits and pieces, maybe a spot of manure here and there, you're pretty much all laughing. You're going to end up with a nice rich worm casting in the end. So there you go. Have you found any worms? No, any cocoons? No. No cocoons? Oh well.
I have found worms.
You've only found worms. We have worm sign. No, we'll leave the June jokes out. Anyway, I'll leave it there. If you've got any comments, questions or suggestions, pop them in the comment section below and Kira will get back to you this time.
No.
No, okay, I'll get back to you. So have a great one and take it easy, guys. Catch ya.
It's all under my nails, even though I didn't do it under my nails.
Ooh, you can always chew it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.